Welcome back to The Next Bite, friends. My name is Danny and I am your host, and today got a whiteboard up. We're talking about carbohydrates. Last week we talked about a couple different ways that you could calculate your protein intake, and when it comes to the holidays, how do we get in sometimes the bare minimum, because we've got a million other things going on, and while we do want to optimize our health, sometimes we just need to make it through and get through the day, but we still want to take care of our health and make it through and do all the things we need to do. So let's dive into carbohydrates, right? We have three major macronutrients: proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Today we're focusing on carbs, and I'm going to give you three different recommendations for determining your carbohydrate intake.
You're listening to The Next Bite, a food and fitness podcast hosted by yours truly, Danny Phillips. For nearly a decade, I've helped hundreds of women conquer their struggles around food and exercise. With a little bit of science,
creamy, salty, sweet, and oaky nuttiness. You detect that?
And humor.
Oh, I'm detecting nuttiness.
Close your eyes.
I'm here to break down nutrition one bite at a time so that you can take one more daily struggle off your plate. Now, I know you're short on time, so in each episode, I'll help you navigate conflicting diet trends.
Everybody says flavor's so important, and it is, but texture matters more.
Confusing food labels.
No! Spit that out right now!
And crazy health claims that bombard your brain daily.
MSG, the king of flavor.
I'm gonna nerd out about the research so that you don't have to, and I'll be able to guide you in deciphering what's optimal versus what's your best option that's available to you in that moment.
Jonesing for a cupcake, and I was having a mild pregnancy tantrum that I could not get a cupcake even though I owned a cupcake shop.
If you're wondering why the world is constantly talking about protein and macros,
give me all the bacon and eggs you have.
Or just trying to answer the never-ending question, what's for dinner?
Started making it, had a breakdown, bon appetit.
You're in the right place. Are you ready? Let's go find your next bite.
So the first one, similar to last week, we talked about the daily value. So the FDA has a daily value that they recommend you take in that's put on the back of nutrition fact panels, or nutrition fact labels rather. So if you see that percentage on the right-hand side of a nutrition fact panel next to the different nutrient that you're looking at, that's telling you what percentage of the total daily intake you would be taking in if you had the serving size that was recommended on that label. Now, for simplicity and according to the labels, those are all based off of a 2,000 calorie a day diet. So that's what we're using here as well. The daily value that a nutrition facts label is using for the percentage of carbohydrates, they're assuming that if you take in 2,000 calories a day, that you are also taking in 275 grams of carbohydrates. Please don't fall over. Hopefully you're already sitting down. I know that's a lot. For many of you, that is a lot. There are some of you where this is normal, and there are some of you where this is not enough. If you are an athlete, if you are, working outdoors on construction sites, you're hot and sweaty all the time because you're in the heat, you may be, or manual labor, you may be eating a lot more than other people, and that's okay. But for a lot of you who in this kind of Western culture, you're very sedentary, you sit at a desk job all day. When you get home, you're moving. This is not to say you're lazy by any means. Your brain is working all day long, I know. But your body may not be physically moving enough to keep up with 275 grams of carbs unless you are intaking a bunch of sugar. And I'm not blaming you for eating sugar here. Sugar can go down real fast. You can eat a lot of it real quickly before you realize how much of it you consumed. Or alcohol. So when you're thinking of processed foods, high sugar foods, fast foods, or alcohol, that is where probably some of you run into hitting this 275 grams of carbs, or the calories that might equate to 275 grams of carbs. Now, this number is also assuming, or recommending rather, it's recommending that per 275 grams of carbs, you're taking in 28 grams of fiber. So 28 grams of fibrous carbs. And that's a whole nother story. We'll get into that on a different day. But keep in mind, all these dietary recommendations are not recommending that the food comes from fast food or highly processed food or ultra processed food or anything that we've kind of created as convenience. We're talking about whole foods, whole grains, beans, legumes, fruits, vegetables, whole grain starchy carbs, like things that come from the earth, right? Not things that were highly processed in a factory. So that's number one, the daily value, thinking about the nutrition fact panel. Number two, the AMDR. So I always want to call this your average macronutrient daily recommendation. That's not the exact acronym, but I'll put it up on the screen. But it's a range, it's a recommended range of where your carbohydrates or any macronutrient should come from. So 45 to 65% of your total daily calories is what the recommendation is for your carbohydrates. Again, that probably seems like a lot for many of you. But again, this is also based on eating whole grains, beans, legumes, fresh fruits, and vegetables. This is not like including your Dr. Pepper that has 40 to 50 grams of sugar in it, or, you know, eating out at Whataburger and the fries by themselves have 60 or 70 grams of carbs and a bunch of fat as well. Like this is assuming that you're eating whole foods. And then kind of stacking on top of that with the AMDR from the Institute of Medicine, the recommendation is to have a minimum of 130 grams of carbs per day because that is the brain glucose level needs. We're not going to get deeper into that because there's lots of other ways to reach those goals and you don't actually have to eat the carbohydrates to get the glucose. But again, different day, different topic. So the couple things that we're looking at here, minimum 130 grams of carbs per day, which probably seems pretty doable. This is I would say a pretty normal amount for most of the clients that I work with. Like this is not a hard or challenging number to hit most of the time. I would say it's pretty normal for someone to take in between 100 and 150 grams of carbs per day when they first start to work with me. So 130 grams a day minimum, 45 to 65% of your daily calorie intake. And if you are using 2,000 calories a day as the basis, then the math for that is down here in pink. So 45% of 2,000 gives you 900 calories. Divide by 4 calories per gram, and that gives you 225. 65% of 2,000, 1,300 calories. Divide by 4 calories per gram, gives you 325. So if we're following this AMDR, 45 to 65%, that is giving us a range of trying to hit somewhere between 225 and 325 grams of carbohydrates per day. So again, there's a lot of other nuances in there, and preference versus, carbs versus fats can definitely play a role. But if you're thinking about what your body could really benefit from on a daily basis, I feel like the carbs are less of an adequate intake approach, like compared to the protein. Like those protein numbers really seem to be focused on what's the bare minimum I need to get by to like function so that I'm not deficient in protein. You will not be deficient by getting under 275 grams of carbs. Under 100 to 130, depending, I think, that's where you can start to get into some brain fog. You may not function, as efficiently and optimally throughout the day as you would like to. So if you feel like your energy levels are struggling, I definitely want to encourage you to track your food for a day. I'm not saying a week, a day, and just get an idea of what am I taking in? I do find that frequently we get into this binge restrict cycle where we only want to eat super healthy foods most of the time, and so we want to nitpick and we're like, oh, we're not going to eat breakfast and maybe we'll just have some fruit for lunch, and then you end up binging at dinner, or you do really well all week but then on the weekend you go to a bunch of parties, you drink a bunch of alcohol, you end up having a bunch of sugary, high fat, high carb items with the drinks, and it really sets you back. So I would rather encourage you to start figuring out what your current habits are And if you're noticing that you're lacking in energy, start to look at what types of carbs you're taking in. Are they whole food sources? Are they fast food sources? Are they high sugar, high processed carb sources? And start to shift the type of carbs that you're taking in, and maybe start to look at that balance of macronutrients. Are you eating proteins, carbs, and fats? Are you nitpicking on a certain macronutrient? Where is your balance? All right, so to quick recap, the 3 different recommendations we've talked about today are your FDA daily value, which is 275, your AMDR, so that's that range, 45 to 65%, and then the Institute of Medicine recommendation for your brain glucose needs, 130 grams per day. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions, tell them or put them in the caption, put them in the comment, let me know, send me a DM, and I would love to dive a little deeper into some of these topics with you. So I hope you enjoyed this. Happy New Year. If you're listening to this on the day that it is published, it is New Year's Eve. So I hope you can take this information and apply it to your New Year's fun food finds or your New Year's Day finds. And remember that carbs are a really great source of energy. They're your body's preferred fuel source. They are not evil. They're not going to make you fat, but there can be ways to enjoy them in moderation and still reach your health goals. So go have a little bit of fun on New Year's Eve. I can't wait to talk to you guys in 2025. I've got a lot coming up, man. I'm still in the Shreveport, Bossier City area of Louisiana, but I will be moving to Orlando, Florida within the next, about month and a half. So I'll be doing a lot of travel in between there. We're still looking for a house. We sold our house here and just ready for a new chapter. So love you guys. I will talk to you in the next episode. And that's it for now. Bye.
That's it for today's bite-sized insights. If you found value in today's episode, please share it with a friend who has mentioned the topic of today's chat and help spread the word. Thank you for your ratings, reviews, and support. They mean the world to me, and they are what help me to continue creating this show. Until next time, I hope you enjoy your next bite.
If you are what you eat, then I only want to eat the good stuff.